Alright guys, BT here again. Next we're going to start cleaning everything up on this insignia first off. I just want to get that out of the way right now because I hate to paint this white color, but I have to admit it comes out really well most of the time. So I'm going to go straight away with the base coat color and start to patch up some areas. Really just dragging the brush in every hole, in every nook that isn't the insignia, to be honest. So I'm dragging it. And it's really nice when you're using a brush, not so much when you're using like a pencil or something like that in other forms of art. The brush itself has a texture that you can use to your advantage. If I show you here on my hand, if I get the focus to work with me. So the brush, come on. When you're pulling the brush, it's going to make a line. You can see this line that I'm making here on my hand. If you push the brush, you can see that it flays out and it gets in to all the indentations and all the lines in my fingerprint, even in something as small as my fingerprint. Now, you can use that, as I was just saying, to your advantage. I have here on this insignia these notches in it, and that's just how the actual that's how the actual metal plate and the design is actually made. Now you can push the brush along into those edges, and that way you don't have to worry about going over the white that you don't want to mess with. It's got a crevice that the brush will conform to, just like my fingerprint has. Now that's really helpful when doing stuff that's small like this, because it's sometimes very difficult to get inside all these little areas. But thankfully, like I said, this is white, so it covers over really easily. It's easy to fix. See, I just push it inside. I just push it inside those areas, and the brush conforms. Since it's soft, it conforms to the area inside without me having to do much trouble. And this is a slightly different situation. Cut that up real nice. And then cut this up real nice on this side. And then very carefully doing this top part. And this top part's probably going to be the most difficult because it's got the most curves to it. So starting in the middle and moving around. Now you can go over this with white again. It's like I said though, it's more difficult to go over with white than it is with blue because the blue covers really well. I'm trying to be very careful with this so I don't have to go back over again with white. And just as I said that, I messed up slightly. Probably fix it. It's wet. There we go. Get this to look as nice and clean looking as I can. There we go. There's the insignia touched up. I might have to go in with it in one spot with white again. That's actually that's pretty good. I mean, usually it's more than one, trust me. The white is such a pain in the freaking, you know what. Anywho, so there we go. Next thing I'm going to do is touch up with blue, since I got blue out, this inner groin plate. It just takes a real quick zap with the blue. Make it sharp edged on the bottom there. And I think that's all I needed to do with the blue. Oh, we got some gray here on the arm or on the hand when we did this pickaxe, or the mattock, whatever you'd like to call it. And there's a big black area that I didn't fill in with blue, so I'm just gonna dab the paint in some water, and just fill in this hand with blue. There we go. Touch up this bolt a little bit. And there we are. And now we're going to take black and go over some areas that need to be black just super fast. And I'm thinking more and more that I want to knock back this pickaxe to a darker color also, just like we did with the grenade launcher. Now, like I said so many times before, I want to make this kind of a darker model. So I really am gonna weather the crap out of this thing, because this machine in the game, if I can explain it to you correctly without messing anything up, the game, this unit is going to be used a lot with the infantry. Other warjacks generally are used with warcasters most of the time. Now, they give newer warcasters in the Cygnar military command of things like grenadiers, because they're used in tandem with infantry a lot. Now, the infantry in any military is going to be gritty. It's going to be just messed up. It's just boots on the ground is going to be the most gritty and dirty thing you can get together with, really, to be honest. And so we're really trying to try and get that effect. I'm gonna just make this thing the ugliest looking barnacle ever. And that looks pretty good. See how it dries. And that's really, I mean, I like this model for that sort of backstory, that sort of fluff. It's a tool that's used in tandem with the guys who are in the trenches and stuff all the time. It's actually used in tandem with the trencher units. I don't know if I've mentioned them before, but it's one of the real basic elements of the Cygnar army. I'm gonna do this engine too. I, by the way, went ahead and just plopped on some brown on them pouches. I don't remember if I had told you guys about that or not. I'm just gonna real heavily mess up this engine. Have it ooze over these pipes in the smokestack. I'm just gonna screw this thing up. I'm gonna make it look like it's been in the shit. But that's what you're after. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it look ugly. Especially all these mechanical bits. I can feel it dripping off of somewhere. Where are you dripping off of anyway? Okay, the front plate. Yeah, a huge glob of it just fell off on my hand. That's a good sign. It's a good sign that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Now, it doesn't need to be on these blues. So if it's on the blue, wet the area real heavily and then go in with your brush after you've dried it off. Just grab it out of there. Okay. So that thing is now all super dirty. The hair there looks like. Okay. The pickaxe looks much better too. It looks like it's actually been used a couple hundred times. It doesn't look like it's brand new, which is what we're trying to get. That bolt looks great too. Okay, so that's all messed up now, how it should be. And that's pretty much all I wanted. Oh, on this side, there's a vent here. I remember we talked about this vent. I'm not sure what to call it, but it's here and it needs to have smoke coming out of it. There we are. It needs to look like it's had smoke coming out of it. So real quick, just gonna drop some in there. Kind of give it a second to dry, because if I put it right side up, because right now the model is upside down. Here's the base, you can see it. This is actually facing towards me, so it's kind of upside down right now. If I were to put it right side up, all that stuff would drip out and kind of run down the arm and stuff, and I want it to sit there for a second, just for a second, so it'll get in them holes real well. And all the while, this stuff we did on the engine is going to be flowing down this way, which we want also. So we're just going to set it upside down for a quick second while I kind of examine the rest of the model. And man, I gotta tell you, this looks really nice. I have to say, I really enjoyed doing this model, and it's come out really nice. Give it a good blow. Diggity. Just to dry up the paint real nicely, real fast, so we can get back to doing stuff. Where'd the white go? Here it is. I'm gonna do, hopefully without screwing this up royally, so I can get this in one take. I'm just gonna patch this freaking white symbol up with a little drop of white. And that thing is in the way. That is really in the way. So we're gonna move it. There we go. You can see just a blue spot. Just I don't want to try and get you to see this. I want you to see. You're not going to be able to see because it's too bright. There's this blue spot that's just at the head of this neck of the bird or the eagle or the dragon or whatever the heck you want to call it. Just going to knock that back, and anywhere else in here that's not as white as it needs to be. And there we go. Done. Done. And I didn't screw it up. Done. So that essentially, if I go one more look over the whole thing, that essentially is all of the model done. The only thing we have left to do is do the base with the two colors to denote the arcs, because in the game you have to denote on the base a 180-degree arc to show where the model is facing. I'm just going to weather up real fast this groin plate. Just real fast, dropping some black in there and rolling it around, and then making sure it sticks in those holes that are in there. You can barely see them just now. Some black holes there. Go over it one more time. Let the black roll down to the bottom, and then leave it in those holes, just like that. And we can set this down because the paint will roll down with gravity, just like we were talking about when you're trying to get weathering effects off of vehicles, different types of vehicles like tanks. Like tanks is a good example for this. We just want it to roll downward. So if we leave it sitting down like this, you saw like earlier how it had it kind of upside down to make sure it wouldn't roll down. Well, now we can let it roll down because we want that effect of streaming down from the from the groin plate. And that is, like I said, this model is pretty much done. Come a long way from that black base coat, that black primer coat, you know. Weapons look really great. Armor looks really dull. I want it to look dull. This insignia came out really great. And as I say that, I see one spot of white that I'm going to annihilate. This needs to be blue, and I know if I breathe, or if it's just slightly out of order, I'm going to mess this up. But if I go really carefully, I'll get it just right. There we go. Cool. So now we can finally say that this thing is done. I'm going to put that arc, those two different color arcs on there, and it's done. Completed. So thanks a lot for sticking through the series. I hope you really enjoyed. If you want some feedback, I'd certainly love you to drop some feedback in the comments, or if you're on A4, just throw some comments in the thread. I have something coming in the mail because, let's face it, this hobby's like crack. You just gotta get more of it. It's like anime. You just gotta keep buying more and more. And so I have something coming in the mail. The last part of me that you'll see doing this is just this sealer coat, and that's to protect our paintwork that we put down so it won't chip off. Especially in metal models, it'll chip really easily if you're not sealing it, if you're not careful. And then I'll probably just do this stuff off camera. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed the series, and hope to see you around more. And I've definitely, most certainly hope you've learned something and enjoyed. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Cheers.